The families and students at Mitchell Elementary School, many of them have refused the invitation to return to in-person learning this spring because of the epidemic, but not the COVID epidemic, because of the epidemic of gun violence in their community. The kids are afraid to go to school. Their parents are afraid to let them. So this isn't a Second Amendment issue, it's a public health crisis. And I know we all understand the response that a public health crisis demands, or at least many of us do. We need a comprehensive, multifaceted approach driven by research and data to address the many facets of the gun violence epidemic. Now, Mr. Skaggs, I have localities in my district currently working towards implementing the evidence-based strategy of group violence intervention. It was actually used in Philadelphia around 2012, 2013 with marked success, but like so many of these initiatives, it ran out of funding. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more about what that strategy entails.
Sure. Well, there are programs that have been proven time and again to be effective. Communities that are racked with higher levels of gun violence are often, the patterns of gun violence in those communities involve a tiny percentage of the population who are most likely both to be shooters and also to be victims of gun violence. And strategies that target those individuals, intervene with those individuals, provide support, and make clear the consequences of continuing to engage in violent behavior have been shown time and again to produce the kind of results that you described. Oakland, California, to take just a single example, cut their gun violence rate in half by 50%. The problem with these programs is they're often not adequately or consistently funded. They require sustained funding, and that's really the key to their success.
And I do think it's important to address both the availability of guns and illegal guns and people who shouldn't have them in our communities, but also the kind of community supports. There's a lot of data coming out recently about the correlation between poverty, hunger, and high gun violence, and that's certainly something we're seeing in my district. How can Congress best support local efforts to curb gun violence and create safer communities through violence intervention programs?
Well, Congress can appropriate funding. Congress can study and promote best practices and that sort of thing, but it's not a complex answer to that question. Congress can appropriate funding to be given to these programs across the country. And we've seen some progress on that, and we're very pleased about that. But sustained, adequate funding is absolutely the key to success.
So you'd agree that doing nothing is probably not the most successful option?
That has generally been proven by experience not to work, in my knowledge.
Thank you. I yield back.